Welcome to the Movie Business Podcast, picking up where Movie Business Book left off. I'm Jason Squire, hosting a wide range of industry talent and executives to answer fundamental questions about the business today. Here we go. And the topic today is marketing with BLAIR RICH, Chief Marketing and Commercial Officer at Legendary Entertainment, driving marketing, branding, and communications, emphasizing new technologies and data analytics. Earlier, she was President and Chief Business Officer of Virgin Galactic's Commercial and Consumer Operations, leading marketing for the groundbreaking Unity 22 spaceflight. Blair served over 20 years at Warner Brothers, rising to President of Worldwide Marketing, heading a global team of over 700, marketing hundreds of titles in theatrical and home entertainment, including franchises Harry Potter and the DC Multiverse. Welcome, Blair.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I'm so pleased that you could join us on the Movie Business Podcast. So, a general question first. What are the secrets of movie marketing?
Well, I think the answer to that is that they're changing all the time and they're not defined, that's for sure. At Legendary, we're sort of known for really kind of big global films. We focus on a lot of IP that has previously been considered difficult to adapt or even unadaptable. So if you think of Dune, that surely fits into that, or the way that we've cared for and revived the MonsterVerse with our Godzilla and Kong series.
Yes.
The sixth one of which comes out next year, the last one of which was the most successful in the franchise to date. And things like Street Fighter coming up and Minecraft last year in partnership with Warner Brothers. So, the answer to the question is really, you cannot be prescriptive. There is no secret to marketing. There is no playbook, because the minute you start to think like that, the minute you have a kind of routine to the way that you take a movie out to the audience, that's not effective. That doesn't work. Everything has to be highly bespoke. I think you have to be intensely curious as a listener in terms of where the audience is and what really connects to them, particularly when we talk about this younger generation and Gen Z and how they connect to material and how they like to have experiences and in what way. And experiential marketing has become hugely important to that. People need more connected experiences that feel worthy of their time, because the doom scrolling and the endless disconnection that's caused by technology and social media has really changed the appetite, particularly with the younger generation who are native to these technologies. They want these connected experiences. And if you look at the most recent research studies, and particularly one from NRG, the research shows that it's the younger moviegoers who are really valuing the in-theater experience the most. And they want these experiences, and you're seeing that certainly in the results of a lot of our films, that and the way that premium format has become more important than ever. They're seeking these unique, elevated experiences through narrative storytelling, through film.
And also, instinct takes a big role in your work.
I am a very big believer in instinct, as you know. You've known me a long time. I think research, I've always valued research, and I always learn from research, but I think it's that old adage, Jason, that like people don't know what they want until you tell them they want it. You have to create that desire. You have to create that hunger and that curiosity. And if you're just relying completely on research to help you design and execute a marketing campaign, it will fail every time. I promise you.
Wow. Well, now let's turn to the day-to-day work. How do you structure your day, including topics that you focus on?
Sure. A lot of my job is in partnership with studios. At Legendary, we develop and produce our films and finance our films, but they're marketed and distributed through studio partners like Warner Brothers and Paramount. So I spend a lot of time with my pretty small team, really obsessing over details around our movies. We're extremely close to the production process, the pre-production process. I'm very close with our production team led by Mary Parent, and I spend a lot of time understanding what they're creating and discussing like how did that get shaped for the marketing part of the effort. I spend a lot of time with my team talking about how we translate a filmmaker's vision and what's in our films that will create cultural moments. If you look at a lot of the campaigns that we're involved in, the way we work with our studio partners, all of our movies have that kind of zeitgeisty quality to them. Whether you think about the chicken jockey thing with Minecraft, or you think about Dune writ large. And I think people forget, before the first Dune movie, Dune was not in culture in that way. The books had been read by an older audience. It was candidly not the largest footprint. There had obviously been, of course, the famous or infamous movie that had come many decades prior, and it was considered the unadaptable. So fast forward now, as we turn the corner going into the third movie, it's such a part of culture, but we also don't take that for granted. How do we keep expanding that audience? How do we make more people feel the need to be part of what Dune is? Or how do we create a moment where everything in culture's attention turns to something in our campaign that makes it undeniable, so that you really seek and want to have that experience? And in an attention economy, which is what we have, that's really a very critical part of marketing, but it can't just be like flash for flash sake, and it can't be inauthentic. You have to earn that over a campaign. And so we spend a lot of time looking at technology, looking at different ways to reach audiences, but technology and social media and stunting in the service of story, in the service of craft, in the service of, again, these connected experiences that I was talking about.
I would also think that there are examples of surprises that come up every now and then. I would hope pleasant surprises.
Well, I think Minecraft is the best example of some of those, because if there's any executive that says they saw everything that happened with Minecraft coming, then I'd like to have a drink with them, because we always believed in the film. Jared Hess is a magnificent storyteller with a magnificent original kind of tone and sense of humor and heart. And Jack Black and Jason Momoa and that cast, they sort of speak for themselves. And obviously we were dealing with massive, massive IP in the game. But candidly, when we started the campaign, the audience had a very negative reaction to the first trailer. It's really hard to have that first piece out when people hold something as personally as they do Minecraft. And there was a lot of concerns about the live action look or how it was being translated. And it took a minute for us to really convince that audience that they were in good hands and that it was going to be okay and it was going to be true to the heart and spirit of the game, and what the fans and the creators held as most sacred would be honored in the game and celebrated in the right way. And in the end, that prevailed. And obviously, everything worked out really well. We made very close to $1 billion globally. But when you see people bringing a live chicken into a movie theater and screaming chicken jockey and throwing popcorn, like that we didn't see coming,
Ever creating the social moment, proving that the movie business and particularly marketing is still full of surprises. That's terrific.
Thank goodness, right? We live for those surprises. It's the best part.
Yes. It's wonderful to track the audience reactions like that. Now, let me ask a wider question. Throughout your career, what are some of the lessons learned?
Well, that's an interesting question. The lessons learned are, I think, one of the most important things, at least for me as a marketer, is curiosity. Sometimes it's hard because entertainment can be a little bit of its own sort of biome, its own sort of like micro world. And it tends to have an echo chamber kind of effect sometimes. And I think that the value of curiosity and reading and looking and learning and always being really humble about how much you don't know and seeking that knowledge and seeking that understanding of the constantly evolving audience, of what they're interested in, and having that respect for the audience, I think is really, really important. I think the audience is just so much smarter than sometimes in some moments the industry gives them credit for being. And, they will tell you, and they will tell you, and especially now with social media and everything else, they tell you very quickly and very loudly. So it's very important to be curious. I really look to my filmmakers. I've always been a very filmmaker first executive and marketer. I've always looked at my role in this as kind of the ultimate translator and communicator of a filmmaker's vision. You look at the intention there, and it's your job to figure out how to best communicate that out to the world to make them want to be a part of it and experience it. And so I always think that there's a just tremendous amount of wisdom and knowledge to be had from really understanding a filmmaker's vision and intention. And I think that understanding technology is hugely important. I've always been intensely interested in digital platforms and data and the evolution of that, and being able to try and look around the corner to understand what's coming next and how it's going to impact the way people think, the way people behave, the way people live, without losing the ever important engine to this whole thing, which is creativity and the fundamental and foundational importance of true creativity and risk taking. I'm a big believer in strategic risk taking. I think if you're not willing to take risks, you just don't get there.
Also, we're living in a world that poses increasing competition for leisure time. So that adds to the mix, doesn't it?
It does. And I always say, like, one of the great challenges of film marketing is that all things being equal, in a world where you can just make one swipe to get anything that you need, where convenience is the paramount value engine of our lifestyle and economy, we're selling a relatively inconvenient experience, right? You have to reserve your tickets and go to the theater, and it's a time commitment. And if you have kids, you have to get the sitter and, all the usual things. And so compared to sitting on the sofa or ordering what you want on streaming or Prime or the way you get your groceries now or anything else in your life, it is comparatively inconvenient. And so we have to make that effort worthwhile, and we have to really challenge ourselves. And, I'm really lucky because I'm working on such terrific movies with such phenomenal filmmakers. So that makes my job obviously much easier, but you really have to do right by the audience in asking for their time and the investment to go and see the film and make that worthwhile and give them a good experience. And it's a little challenging. I mean, the theater environment, as we know, hasn't evolved really at all in my lifetime. And so we really have to push innovation in different ways.
This, of course, is a continuing challenge in the industry as it evolves. Gosh, so let me ask, what is your advice for someone interested in entering the field?
That's a great question. And I talk to a lot of young people. We have a really robust internship program at Legendary. I started my career in entertainment as an intern. So this is a question that is very close to my heart, because it's the way that I started. I think versus when I entered the industry, it's really daunting now. There's fewer jobs. The industry is constricting. There's a ton of disruption. It is unquestionably a more challenging environment. The advice that I give to people is work really hard to try and find internships so that you can educate yourself as to the realities of the industry and the area that you think you're interested in, and make sure that you have clarity. Because I'm in marketing and people say, well, I want to do marketing. And I say, well, you can't do marketing because that's not an internship. Are you interested in digital and social? Are you interested in publicity or creative, or which thing? I think it's really important for a young person to understand both creativity and technology. I mean, AI is here. There is no avoiding that. Marketing costs have been escalating for decades now, and the cost of that is a big constraint on the financial metrics of theatrical movies. And we have to understand how to protect the essential creativity of our product while still evolving it and still using tools like AI in places where it increases efficiency in terms of media planning, media reach, things like that, not replacing human creativity and human artistry. And you're going to have fluency in that if you want to be a young person getting into this industry. I would say the other piece of advice I give, Jason, is that you have to have a sort of indefatigable sense of fearlessness because it's really tough right now. It is. And but I'll give you an example of that. A couple of years ago, I spent a lot of time with the team at A24 and I did a lot of consulting for them. And what was so motivating about that team, and they're all so smart, is they're pretty fearless. They really understand their audience. They really understand that they've built this kind of like interesting branded culture and how to communicate that. And it comes with a sort of fearlessness. And I think that that makes it stand apart. And it's going to require those kinds of people and those kinds of skill sets to keep innovating and connecting to the audience in the industry. And you're seeing that constant expansion of what they're doing there and that success. So I think that technology is hugely important. AI is a reality that we cannot avoid. I personally always have found one of the very frustrating things in this industry and in Hollywood is the unbelievable resistance to technology and to evolution. It always wants to stay in a certain place. And my feeling on that is honestly is find the ways to use the technology that create a cost benefit, that create an efficiency while protecting the things that need to be protected, while protecting the artist, while protecting creativity. And we should be wholly focused on that in every aspect of our business, because that's the difference in my view of using technology to our advantage and being overtaken by technology to great disadvantage. And that's what you don't want to have happen.
You've also answered the next question about AI, but let me ask finally, what would you add about your prognosis for the business and where we're all heading?
I'm a movie optimist. Maybe that's self-preservation. I'm not sure. But I really do believe it when you see people connect to these stories. And I think 2025 was a terrific year for movies. When you see, for example, the tremendous success that Warner Brothers had with original filmmaking, when it wasn't just all sequels and it was big IP, but not only big IP, and audiences really responded to that. I don't know how as an industry we hold on to the value of originality in this world, but there's always going to be an appetite for originality and bold storytelling. And the reason that the filmmakers who are the most successful in our industry are those people is because they're the ones who embrace that the most. And so I am an optimist. I think you can be an optimist if you embrace the notion of change and that it won't be the same as it used to be, because that's a foregone conclusion. From an industry perspective, having fewer studios is obviously challenging, and the disruption of streaming is obviously challenging, and competing with tech writ large and the YouTubes of the world is definitely stressful. That just puts that much more pressure on people like us at Legendary and the creators to really make films that move the audience, that are incredibly satisfying as an audience, and that stand apart from what you can get in any other kind of experience.
Well, I join your optimism. I'm a movie optimist also, a theatrical optimist, and it is a challenge that the bar keeps raising for success in theatrical, and you're right in the middle of it. You're at the cutting edge. Gosh, let me thank you so much for being a guest, Blair Rich, on the Movie Business Podcast. It's been so much fun to chat with you. Thank you again, Blair.
My pleasure. It's always great to talk to you, Jason. Thank you so much.